Hello, you. Welcome to my YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, your YouTube channel, Screaming at the Wind. My name over here is Jason Long. I say it like that because once we realize what's going on here, once we perceive the underlying truth of reality, we will see that it is one, that we are one. What I like to do is sit for a moment just for about 1 minute so we can kind of let our thoughts and our emotions and our everyday stuff kind of fall away and just let the world outside just drop away from us for a moment. Okay, so I don't prepare any of this stuff, it just comes through me. And so as I'm sitting, things come in to speak about. And, if you're looking for answers, as most of us are, we study a lot of things. You may be from a particular religious affiliation. You might have been raised Christian or Buddhist or Muslim or Taoist or uh, there's lots of other things. There's things I haven't studied. And I studied for a long time. I sought for a long time as Jason, looking in a lot of weird places. Went to a lot of, and not so weird places, but I went to a lot of different religious organizations. I participated in different ceremonies and rituals, trying to understand what the heck is going on here. And the other day, it was a while back, wasn't the other day, it was quite a few months ago. I saw a little meme posted online, and it had this guru or this holy man from India with the dreads, and beside him it said, "Intellect can get you to the door, but it can't get you through it." And that is the absolute truth when it comes to this stuff. Um, Everyone can understand the concept that everything is one, but to directly perceive the oneness of reality, that is a different thing. To sense and experience the oneness of reality, the non-duality of our existence, that is a different thing. And from my experience, our only job is to discover this first. And the world around us fools us. It tells us that we have to do a lot of stuff. Go to school, find a partner, get married, have kids, figure out what we're going to be when we grow up, and then our wants, not our needs, tell us we got to do a lot more stuff. I want fancy cars, or I want fancy stuff, or I got to have this, or I got to have that, or I need this. Well, first let's clarify what our actual needs are riding around in these human cars that we like to call ourselves, which is a mistake, I believe. No, I don't believe. I know. The body needs enough, not an abundance, just enough good food, good water, good air, good shelter. Shelter includes clothing. Clothing is there to protect us from the elements. When our illusionary sense of self, the false self, or whatever you want to call it, grabs onto this, it turns these things, it turns into vanity, and we think we got to have the best of the best of the best of everything. And not just the best, but we got to have more, more than enough. And the opposite of lack is not abundance. The opposite of lack is enough. You know, we learn these things by sitting and observing over time reality. When we read ancient texts like the Tao Te Ching or the Bible or Buddhist teachings or any, and I mentioned those three because those are just the three I stuck with for a long time. But there's plenty of others. You know, every religious group that I studied in my life or participated in, uh, the underlying truth was written into those texts. The answers are there. It's the way that um, a certain part of the physiology of this form causes us to see it that we don't see the truth. Um, I often say that the the truth in these texts can only be understood if you go 180 degrees in the opposite direction of where we naturally want to go. Because our enemy, if we even have one really, is the self-preservation mechanism in the body, the fight or flight mechanism. The feelings that incurs is called fear. It was put there to, help us jump off the path if we saw a snake out of the corner of our eyes. And then as you, learned about this reality, that mechanism in the form also learned about this reality. And in Christianity, they say the devil knows the Bible too. And as far as I can tell, there ain't no devil. But there is that self-preservation instinct which causes us to perceive things in an opposite way of the truth. And so when we're studying, we need to really question anyone, even myself, who approaches us and tells us anything about what this reality is that we're a part of. The Bible, which is the first book I studied, in religion I studied. I was baptized in a church in water, and I would go listen to the ministers and the priests and the preachers. And I can't say that any of them knew the truth or not. I do not know. But it told me to study to show myself approved. Jesus said, if the blind lead the blind, they both fall in a ditch. It says each person works out their own salvation. That means if I hear something and I just blindly reject it or blindly believe it, I have done the most ignorant thing that we can do on this planet. You hear information, you take it, and then you go verify it for yourself, whether it's true or false. And so at a young age, I didn't trust anybody. Don't know why. But I heard a quote a long time ago, some famous person, and they said, question everything. And you should. You should question everything. Even you should question every circumstance you're in, every person you deal with. You should also question the thoughts in your head and the feelings in your body. Um, you should question everything. Just because somebody has a fancy degree and they went to school for many years to get a little piece of paper so they could get a job doesn't mean they know something. One thing I know for sure is I don't know anything. And if we can find this perfect state of not knowing anything, we will know all there is to know. Because what we've forgotten over time is that we named and created words and concepts and labels for all that our senses experience. And then we got lost in our make believe. And that is suffering. It takes a lot more energy to listen to the illusionary self or the instincts that have gone awry and to make the things happen that they wish for us to happen than it does to just be here, seeing and hearing and feeling without thought. Can you see the object which we label as a tree without the mind going off or segueing off on a tangent of concepts about trees? Can you just feel the cool breeze on your skin without the mind saying it's cold or it's hot or whatever it is? Can you just be cold with it? Can you just be hot with it? One of my favorite things when I'm working with people one-on-one is I'll tell them to look into my eyes. And just not look into my eyes, but let your eyes rest on my eyes. And what I tell them, there's three things. First, see everything in your field of vision, up and down, side to side. See everything and hold that. The next thing on top of seeing everything is to hear all the sounds around you. Become aware of them. The cars in the distance, the heating or air conditioner in your room making a humming noise. Your animal, if you got a cat or a dog, they may be making some noise. My dog is down there making a little noise right now. Her name is Maybelline. She has been my friend and companion on this road for about 11 years now. I do not own her. I don't know why we thought that we could own anything. When we are riding in a car for 40 to 80 years, sometimes a little longer, and then we drive on out of here, it is silly to assume in the infinite that we can possess anything. But we do. We think we can. The story of the Native Americans when the early settlers approached and asked them to sign over their lands, they were just confused. They could not understand how anyone could possibly conceptualize the idea of possessing something from which we sprang. We sprang from the earth and we think we can possess it. We could share it, but possess it? And if you look around in your life, you'll see that every time you try to hold on to something really tightly, you lose it. But some of us don't see that. Not most of us, but some of us don't see that because we're so busy losing one thing and grabbing onto another and leaving claw marks on it when we lose that. You know, the first half of life is gaining stuff, gaining friends and memories and experiences and material possessions and knowledge. And the second half of life, if we sit around and observe, seems to be about letting go of that stuff. The friends, the memories, the experiences, the knowledge, the stuff, the material possessions, all that. And what through my years of study before awakening, and when I say awakening, I don't mean that Jason was awakened. I mean that mind, consciousness, awareness, the Holy Spirit, the Great Spirit, that which we truly are, saw through the illusion of a separate self. I like to say that enlightenment starts where I and you end. Now that's a tough one. Awakening is not Jason awakening or you awakening. It is the seeing through clearly of a separate sense of self, and that separate sense of self is everything that I and you may or may not have identified with most of our lives. Some call it detachment. We see through clearly and we detach from these mental attachments. You know, when we're born, I would say that we perceive everything as an extension of ourself, which is true. And over time, we get attached to things. Somebody told me at some point my name was Jason, so I attached I am to the concept or word Jason. And then the story began. My bank account, my car, my dog, my house, my stuff, my beliefs, my ideas, my opinions. And then what happens as we develop these attachments, mental and emotional and physical, outside of ourselves seemingly, we uh, defend the heck out of those. And that takes a lot of energy. And in defending those, we are actually dying. We are not truly living. We are not truly here experiencing what this life is, the magic, the awe, the wonder of life, because we are living through thoughts and feelings that have absolutely nothing to do with reality. And I know that some parts of myself right now watching this video are sitting there going, well, blah, 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 blah. Why don't you look at that right now inside yourself? And I hope, I like to poke at people, but look at that inside yourself. Look at that thing in your stomach. It just rears up, and it wants to lash out because it feels like it's threatened. And then I want you to look around the room you're in or wherever you're at watching this video with your eyes and listen with your ears and feel everything around you with the body that you're in and see if there is any actual threat to you. As far as I can tell in this current state I'm in, the only threat to me is anything that threatens this physical life. If you're holding a gun to my head or, waving a knife in my face or you're about to punch me or something like that, that's a threat. That's a actual threat, or a snake, or, something that could take this form away from me. However, even that is not a threat once we realize what we are. And there's no words that I can tell you that will help the mind or the feelings understand what we are. The Bible, the Tao Te Ching, any teachings, Scientology, those are just directions to what we are. Doesn't matter. All roads lead home. We planned it that way before we got here. We made it easy for ourselves, but we knew it would be difficult. And I like to say that. That may or may not be true. I read once that spirit decided to come down into this lower vibratory realm at some point, and as soon as we jumped into these bodies, the desires overwhelmed us so much we forgot what we were. We started to believe that we were these mortal, finite forms, and then the fun began. We started killing and raping and murdering and pillaging and arguing and defending concepts that had nothing to do with what we are, the infinite nature, the immortal nature of what we are. And so then we sent another wave down, but we were a little more careful this time. And we sent that wave to help wake up, to help heal, to help repair those of us who had gotten lost in this realm. And I believe that story went on to say there was a third wave. And in reading that, it mentioned something about the pyramids, the ancient pyramids, not all pyramids, the great pyramids, the three there, those were actually for healing and awakening. Those were designed to help wake us up. Is that true or not? Don't know. Just a story I read. Makes sense, though. Makes a lot of sense. And so, what are we here for? Well, we initially seemed to come here to play. We forgot that. It's still that way. But since a lot of us got lost, we must first realize what we are. And that's the work. If we study history of religions and we go way back, and you won't get this in school, you just got to go on YouTube. You got to make it your own endeavor. And you got to do it with all the intent and willpower that you got uh, to come to the truth. But you don't even have to really read books. You can do all that, but you can just sit down and see everything and hear everything and feel everything. And then become aware of that in you which is aware of everything, even itself. And don't think. If you're doing all the other stuff, though, the see, hear, feel, and being aware of the awareness that you are, and you don't even have to do the fourth one, just see, hear, feel. The mind will immediately drop. The thinking mind will drop, and then the emotions will settle. The instincts gone awry will settle, and you will perceive the direct truth of reality. As soon as you do, the mind's going to go, well, what? It's going to start saying a lot of crazy stuff. And that's not you. Somehow, this word thinking, it's a weird word. It's very deceptive. We assume that the thoughts coming into our mind are us. I think, I believe, I opinionate, I choose this, I choose that. Right? Well, here's something I like to ask people. Have you ever had a night where you laid down to go to sleep and you got something really important you got to do the next day and your mind won't shut up? Well, and you really want to go to sleep. Well, if that thinking mind is you, why can't you get it to shut up when you got something really important to do the next day and you really want to go to sleep? It's because it's not you. Simple. 2 plus 2 is 4. I think I spoke about this in my last video, but you read a lot of text and they like to differentiate between knowledge versus wisdom. Knowledge anybody can get. You can read a book, you can spout it off to somebody else. That's knowledge. And it comes from, just reading a book, just taking information from the world and then spouting it back out. It's a form of mimicry. And we all can mimic. All the animals in nature, or a lot of them, mimicry. And it's based on a lot of times false knowledge, not truth. And so how do we get, and wisdom, I like to differentiate wisdom as that which is intuited in the moment from the state of beingness. And in doing that, we spring forth into doing this in a more correct and righteous way, or right way, even though there's no right or wrong. The mind, and that doesn't mean we can go off gallivanting around the world harming people. I'm not I just don't get into moral and ethical debates, because once we see clearly, hear clearly, when we perceive reality as it is, right action springs forth and not right action falls away. And what is right action? In this sense, it is that which is most beneficial, not just to myself, but to everyone. And unright action is that which is usually only beneficial to me, or my group, my state, my country, my ethnic group, my gender group, you know, and all these fights over all that stuff is merely a separate sense of self. It's spirit lost trying to defend the car it's riding around in. That's all that is. I've been accused of being a straight white male before. I can assure you, we did a DNA thing on this body. And I can't say this body's me, but I'll tell you, the DNA in this body is Native American, it's South African, there's Scotch Irish. And when I was younger and um believed that I was the thoughts and feelings, I went through a phase where I probably, I tested a lot of things. I tried a lot of different flavors and come to find that I was just being deceived by a story in the head that was causing feelings in the body. I am that which is looking through the eyes, speaking through the mouth, hearing through the ears, sensing through the skin, the nose, the mouth, taste, smell, touch. However, I am none of those things. This form is a sensory device to sense in this reality, and we sense through it. The egoic state, the illusionary state, is this sense that I am in this body looking outward at an infinite universe. And man, that's a scary state to be in. And there's a lot of running around like an anthill, just running all over the place. Because I gotta protect this, you know. And really, that's not even you doing the running around. That's just a preservation mechanism on autopilot until you awaken, until you realize what you are. It's something to keep the body alive long enough so that consciousness, mind, spirit, whatever you want to call it, energy, creative intelligence, becomes aware of itself. Until then, you ain't driving the car. We ain't driving the car. I ain't driving the car. Once we realize, then we're driving the car. Because until that point, I don't think free will is possible. Sorta is. And the choice is me, identified as this form, or everything. These thoughts and feelings versus the infinite universe. In ancient religions or early Christian religions and a lot of other uh, early schools of thought, religious and spiritual schools of thought, they called God all, A-L-L. They didn't think of God in their heads as some gray bearded dude off in the sky who was, giving out right and wrong uh, to those who were good and bad. That's spiritual milk. We want to grow some teeth and get to the meat. All. So God in those days meant everything in existence, inward and outward. Everything in existence, inward and outward. I have friends of faith and I constantly challenge them. I have parts of myself who claim to have faith, and yet they run around in fear. And I go, how big is your God? It's a joke. God is everything. a concept of God, a set of beliefs in God is it's minuscule. That's finite. How do I know God is everything? And we can throw that word away. Spirit is everything. Consciousness is everything. The Tao is everything. Heaven is everything. Well, I have to take what I am, consciousness, awareness, and quit hyper focusing it like a laser on little bitty things and expand it outward from this form infinitely in all directions. And we know then. We know. But that comes at the loss of a sense of separate self. As soon as, the preservation instinct in the body grabs on to concept, me, what literally happens is this energetic seeming barrier, right, comes up and constricts. And it really feels like I'm in here and everything else is out there. And from that point on, I'm as blind as a bat, stumbling in the darkness. And any fool who comes along can just grab me by the hand and drag me into a ditch because they're blind too. I'm not saying everybody's blind. You know if you know. Ooh, that reminds me of an old spiritual saying. There are four kinds of knowers. There are those who know not and know not that they know not, and they are fools. You should stay away from them. There are those who know, but they know not that they know, and they are like a man asleep. They must be awakened. There are those who know not, and they know not, and they are like a child, and they can be taught. And there are those who know, and they know that they know, and you should listen to what they have to say. They have become a master or a teacher. So which one are you? Which one of those are you? And what is this knowing that they're talking about? I heard that from I think it was a Vietnam vet. He had lost one of his legs, or he had been crippled from the waist down. He was in a wheelchair, and I met him at a BP gas station in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, many years ago. And he told me that. And for years I pondered on that, going, which one am I? What is it they're talking about knowing? What is this knowing? And it works sort of like a Zen koan. And if you don't know what a koan is, it's a phrase or set of phrases in which you ponder upon, and if you ponder long enough, you might wake up. And so that's what happened, sort of. But I didn't wake up. I went away, and awakeness was here. You're already awake. What is this awakeness? Buddha said everyone's the Buddha, but realizing it is the hard part. And the world makes it harder as we go along. Things outside what our five senses perceive get more and more complicated every day. Every day. Now we used to just have to deal with what our five senses, the world around us, what our five senses perceived. And now we got all these little magical devices, iPhones and computers. I'm not knocking them. I use them too. But we get lost in another layer down in that imaginary uh, uh, computer world, social networking. And some of you are like, well, why are you putting this video on YouTube? I didn't want to. I didn't want to do this. Not really. Jason didn't want to do this, but what I am, said, get it done. Put it out there. And if you notice, I ain't blasting it out and doing all kind of crazy social networking stuff. I just know put it out there. And those who need to see it will come, and they'll see it, and they'll hear what they need to see. And then they'll go on about their business. I don't know if I've quoted this before, but Walt Whitman comes to mind. He said, no longer will you feed off the specters and books, or take the world's second or third hand. but you shall filter everything through yourself. And I believe I said this last video. Seek until you find. But there is something to find. The point is not in seeking. And here's something funny. That which causes me to seek enlightenment or whatever it is we're seeking as seekers, love, whatever. It's the same thing that causes me to seek fame and fortune and power and everything else in the world. Fear. What is faith? Faith is talked about in many religions, many ideologies. And in our world today, we conceptualize that faith is a set of beliefs. I believe this, I believe that. And I would have to disagree. Faith is the state of being in which fear has been conquered in the heart and the mind. It is beingness itself. It is awakeness itself. It is being fully present right here in the moment, not letting the mind-body thought-feeling mechanism catapult me mentally and emotionally into a future or past that has never and will never exist. I've never lived a yesterday or today, nor have you. But we haven't lived in today or in this moment because our mind is constantly jumping into what we got to do tomorrow or what we did wrong yesterday. I used to go through all this stuff. Oh, I need to quit this. I need to quit that. I need to do this. I need to do that. I don't do that now. No thoughts happen here. Ideas and stuff sort of come in. They come in. They come in because it's one. We're all one. Thoughts come in. What we call thoughts. They come in. They're not mine. They're not mine. They're ours. They come in. But when there was a sense of separate self, they were mine. So there is something to find. And that something to find is you, your true nature. Some call it Christ consciousness. Some call it Buddha consciousness. Some call it awareness. I've already said it a bunch of times. Some call it the integrated mind, where you reintegrate back into the Tao. But all this seeking outside of ourselves is just a simple trying to find ourself. And here's the big deal. As Buddha said, true self is no self. You ain't gonna find a self. And in that nothingness, in that emptiness, in that voidness, you will find everything. That you are the infinite manifested through the form, gazing upon all the different aspects of itself. And you are the most beautiful and amazing and creative and intelligent work of art that I personally have ever seen. But that's kind of, you know, that's me just saying that about myself. But you are that. You are love itself. And all you got to do is see, hear, feel. And if you can just do those three simple things, don't think, see, hear, feel. See everything around you. See everything in your field of vision. Hear all the sounds around you. Feel everything with your whole body. If you're doing those, that thinking mind will drop away and you will experience, as Jesus said, as our brother and teacher, Jesus said, peace beyond understanding, or the truth that sets you free. This is not religious. It's not even spiritual. It's just directions to home, baby. And you're home. You are home itself. How do I know this? Because you found home over here. That's all. You found home over here. And over here wants me to find home over there. That's all. Well, I've went about 40 minutes. It's a little longer than I wanted to do. Soon, hopefully soon, we'll be doing a couple live streams for ourselves out there, so that ourself can call ourselves here or Skype here, and we can answer questions and help to knock those questions away. Because in the dropping of all the questions, the only answer that we ever needed, is presented. So my job is to help knock away those questions so that we can see the light, love, peace, and glory that we are. Have an amazing you.